Welcome to Cranfield University on this sunny day. That shot you saw a minute ago is live. I saw some clouds, but a little bit of sun. Thank you for taking time out of your busy days to join us. My name is Toby Thompson. I'm the studio director in the glorious Granville Turner Studios, where we're coming from today. Today's going to be an interactive session, so please type your questions into the Zoom text chat. I think you know by now where that is. If not, it's down there somewhere. At pretty much any time, anything that you hear you're not clear about, please ask a question. And if you're watching the recording, hello, and please let's carry on the conversation. We're very keen to carry on that conversation, so please get in touch. There'll be plenty on the screen to explain how to get in touch afterwards. So welcome to the recording. Those of you joining live, we are in for a treat. I am joined today in the studio by Sian Moxom. Sian, thank you very much for joining us. You are, just briefly, your job title?
I'm Head of Apprenticeships here at Cranfield.
Wow, and you've been doing that for how long?
Well, it's quite a new switch into head, but I've been in the team for 6 years, and before I was deputy, so it's a nice career progression for me in apprenticeships.
Wow.
Here, yeah.
So any question about apprenticeships, you're the person?
Well, that's why I'm here. Let's hope so.
If that wasn't enough, we're in the presence of greatness. We have two amazing students joining us too. So if you're not clear about what it is that I'm asking or what Sian is saying, we have two amazing students. Sophie, just give us that amazing job title again, Sophie, and tell us what you're studying here at Cranfield.
Sure. So my name's Sophie Jones. I am Head of Organisational Capability at the UK Civil Aviation Authority, and I'm currently studying the Senior People Professional Apprenticeship at Cranfield.
Brilliant. Sounds like University Challenge. Richard, tell us what your job title is and what you're studying.
Yes, Toby. Hello and welcome, everybody. And my name is Richard Warren. So I'm the Global Director for Consumer Retail and Food at BSI, otherwise known as British Standards Institution. And I'm doing the Level 7 apprenticeship in Marketing and Leadership.
Fantastic. More on that story later. Like I say, if you want to know what it's really like studying a Level 7 apprenticeships and how to elevate your career here via Cranfield, then these are the people to ask. Sian, Sophie and Richard. Sian, I'm going to come to you first if I can. People on the call may be thinking, why bother? Why study an apprenticeship, Level 7 apprenticeship here at Cranfield?
Well, I think Cranfield has traditionally always been very close to industry, so apprenticeships align quite well at Cranfield. A lot of our staff have industry experience and they've come over into academia. We've got a lot of connections for speakers from different organisations to come and lecture and give the benefit of their experience to our apprentices. So it really is a good fit for the university.
So someone on the call thinking, is this going to help my career? What advice would you give them?
I would say yes,
Yeah,
absolutely, it does. You get a postgraduate study and you get to invest that into the workplace. So you think about your academic modules and then how that is aligned to the knowledge, skills and behaviours of every apprenticeship standard. And you get to monitor how your performance is improving, aligned with these different objectives as you go through. So you're building up a great wealth of knowledge, but also applying it in your workplace.
What if, again, people are watching the recording or watching the live event thinking, you know what, it's been a while since I was in education. I'm not sure if I've got the courage to go back into it. What would you say to them?
There's only one way to find out. So come on down, come and join us. We do have people that have undergraduate degrees join us, and we also have people on the apprenticeship that have never studied at undergraduate or postgraduate level. So actually it's a really great way of having this sort of education and support in the workplace if perhaps the traditional routes aren't available to you, or it isn't something you've pursued when you were younger.
You mentioned the workplace there. You need everyone to get permissions and advice and the go-ahead from their employer, right?
You do.
That's quite a big thing.
You do. It is a work-based programme. It is about how you're performing at work, your portfolios that you're going to develop alongside all of the academic study that you do. So you do need to have a job that's suitable, really, that will give you the opportunities that you need to demonstrate those all-important knowledge, skills and behaviours.
And delivery, before we go to Sophie and to Richard, delivery, is that done face-to-face, online? Is it a mixture? Tell us more.
It varies. It varies between the different programmes. There's face-to-face teaching, online teaching, simulations, those sorts of things. So the types of teaching can vary depending on which apprenticeship you're doing, and also what your work consists of in the workplace and how you apply it there. So
Those are going to be perfect questions for Sophie and Richard in a second. One last one about Cranfield. What's distinctive about Cranfield? What do we have a particular take, either on apprenticeships or work generally?
Well, I've mentioned the closeness to industry that we have, but I think also at Cranfield we've got such broad expertise. So we've got apprenticeships from really technical disciplines, management and leadership in the School of Management. So there's a real wealth of expertise here that you can take advantage of. Plus also our study skills services, our support services, library, so on, and the apprenticeship tutors that are a dedicated service to each and every apprentice that we have here at Cranfield.
You know I know this one, but for those of you watching the screen here, this thing behind us is the Digital Aviation Technology Research Centre, a picture of, it's actually up and running live. That's the kind of some of the cool stuff that we have here. That's a real plane that we have under the canopy there. I'm going to pass some of those questions, I think, first of all, to Sophie. Sophie, tell us more. Tell us, why did you start studying apprenticeships here at Cranfield? What was the motivation?
I think, well, for me, I moved into my current role in HR just over 2 years ago, and I'd come from outside of the HR space. I think what really attracted me to this particular programme was the course modules, actually, and my interest in each of those, but also that the blend, as you've just talked about, the blend, really, what I really liked is the course is a mixture of both virtual and in person. So being in person, I get to meet my cohort. The lecturers are fantastic. The facility is fantastic. But then actually being able to look at the course modules that were aligned with the role that I'm doing and that I'm looking to do in the future was what really sort of inspired me for this particular programme.
And on that point, we just mentioned, Sophie, a minute ago about getting bosses, getting your employer on board. Say more about that in your situation.
So in my current role, I actually am responsible for our apprenticeship programme. A huge supporter. I think for us here at the Civil Aviation Authority, we've been developing and growing the apprenticeship programme over the last sort of 18 months, 2 years. So actually for me, it was a really easy sell. We also work with Cranfield in partnership on a different apprenticeship, one of the technical apprenticeships. So actually the buy-in from this organisation is already there. I think for me, it was more around how could I balance it with the current role, but then when I was able to demonstrate that practical application of learning, how it aligned, how I could bring some of the learning, some of the modules into my day-to-day role, actually that was the sell for me.
Thanks, Sophie. Sian, I want to come back to you if I can and say a little bit more about the apprenticeship levy. And we know certainly in the UK, the government are going to make some changes. Do we know anything about that yet?
We don't know as much as we would like to know at the moment. They're making decisions on their level 7 delivery, but we haven't had anything firm. So at the moment, there's quite a lot of speculation, I think, and uncertainty. But we are where we are. We're certainly keen to find out more, but for the time being, the level 7s are available to apply, register and start. So that's what we're hoping to do over the next few months before we find out any news. We also have our level 6 provision at MKU, so that's growing well. So we're interested to seeing what the next moves are and how Cranfield and MKU will respond to that.
And if employers are watching the recording or are actually joining us live online, the reason to tie in to work with the apprenticeship levy, I'm presuming is clear, if they need to be convinced.
Well, I'm hopeful, given what Sophie said about Civil Aviation Authority, that the benefits are clear. There is a lot of money being invested by organisations into their apprenticeship levy, and they should reap the benefits of those. So it's really important to think about succession planning, high-performing staff, retention of staff via apprenticeship opportunities to make the most out of the apprenticeship levy costs and recoup the benefit of it. So, yeah.
Speaking of high potential students and staff, Richard, I'm going to pass to you. Tell us a bit more about why you chose the topic of study that you have.
Well, in my global role, I interact with all aspects of the business. So I go horizontal within the business and vertical within many industries within consumer retail and food. To be honest, I wanted the challenge. And I absolutely can't endorse this course highly enough. I think in the last 50 years, because I'm classified as a senior learner, there have been two courses that have actually changed me. This is one of them. I'm not the same person that I was 12 months ago. I think differently, I act differently, I approach work differently. I get so much out of it. It's really invigorated and reinvigorated my career, I believe. I just think it's absolutely terrific. What I do like about it is that it is task-based learning at this level. So at graduate level, you're basically told what you need to know and you've got to remember it and then articulate it using various models. Here, you're not treated like that. You're actually told, well, go over there and think about this and think about how you can apply it. So you're learning new skills as well, like critical thinking. You're applying these skills to your studies. You're going and doing the research, you're getting the data, you're doing the assignments, and each one you learn that little bit more. And you know what? You can apply it directly at work immediately. I have been doing that consistently since I started. And it's just, it's like hanging on to an electrified wire in some ways. You just got to get hold of it and grab hold really hard. And if you do, I think you're going to get a tremendous amount of benefit from it, like I have and continue to get. And as Toby knows, I shall be sad when this course ends, because I shall miss it. I think that what Cranfield offers is unique. I think the teaching staff are terrific because they run their own consultancies very often, so they're very much plugged into the real world and apply the academic studies, learnings, models, etc., to real life situations that you can relate to. That's the key.
Richard, grasping hold of that live wire, not the most appealing of metaphors, I have to say. That could, for the audience, some of the people in the audience, could scare some people, thinking, goodness me, what sort of day or what sort of experience should I expect? What's an average day? Is there such a thing?
Well, it comes, well, for me, I mean, my days at work are long. They, first of all, like today, started off with calls at 7 a.m. with Australia, and then they'll finish this evening, probably about 9 o'clock, having spoken with the US. But the thing is, you do have to get the commitment of your employer. And I'm so fortunate, so lucky to work for BSI that really do believe in lifelong learning, even at my age. And they give me that time and the space. 20% of my week is devoted to my studies. I obviously have things crop up during that one day, which you've got to deal with. And of course, I deal with them. But you've got to apply yourself. And I find that I find the material so absorbing that I have bought most of my books rather than get them from the library, which gets you off to a good start till the book arrives. And then I spend time in the evenings reading, and at weekends I'm often doing research for my assignments. And you need that downtime as well to think about what you're learning and how you can apply it. And situations arrive at work very frequently where you can apply those learnings and provide different insights to the challenges that you face. But it is task-based learning. I really do love it. It's very different, but your employer has got to give you that time and that space and respect the fact that you're doing a very demanding course. It was said by Anne-Marie Hanlon at the beginning that this course is intensive. For sure it is. I think I misunderstood just how intense it was, but it is very intense. But like you said, you only get out of it what you put in, and she's absolutely right.
Couldn't be more true. Sian, I want to come to you because Richard mentioned there 20% or some percentage in terms of time off work to do this. How does that work with your employer?
I'm really glad to hear, Richard, that you get that time. So that's fabulous. So you've got that routine, and I imagine that you, everybody just adapts, don't they? To this is Richard's learning time, so people just get used to that routine. So that is protected for you. So that's great. It is actually a tenet of the apprenticeship where
it's in the rules.
Yeah, it's in the rules. It's in the funding rules, where Education Skills Funding Agency define that employers give apprentices 20% of their time to dedicate to their apprenticeship, but there is a little bit of admin there for apprentices because they have to do a timesheet of what they're doing in their working hours towards their apprenticeship. So there is a little bit of admin to do to cover that, as I'm sure Richard's aware in his Matas Hub portfolio. But that's a small price to pay, I think, for the opportunity that you've got and so on to develop your career. And it's just a joy to hear you talk about it, Richard.
John, may I add? I think you become a juggler as well. Not only do you have your clear responsibilities and duties at work, you have the same responsibilities and duties at home as well. And you need to be able to balance those three. At the beginning, I found that quite challenging. But of course, things settle down and you get into a rhythm of work, just as you said, Sian, and you're able to work on the assignments as I do at evenings and weekends, as well as my 20% during the week. But it's getting the balance right, and the balance does happen, and things do settle down. At first, it's difficult. It is a bit of a shock, but you adjust, and I think it works extremely well. But getting that commitment from the employer is absolutely essential, and of course your loved ones around you that are going to realize that you're shutting yourself away and you're doing your studies also has to be recognized as well.
Gosh, Sophie, Richard, obviously Sophie is a workaholic. How does that work? You finding yourselves working, Sophie, in the weekends, at the evenings? Tell us more.
Yes, so I think, again, similar to what Richard said, actually, so that 20%, from my perspective, I tend to split it into sort of 2 days rather than one, because actually from a workload perspective, that works well for me, and actually that's in your control of when you do that 20%, which I think is really great because you can work it around your sort of day job. I think in terms of weekends and evenings, as Richard said, at assignment times, particularly for me, I'm coming up to the end of assignment 2 or module 2, so there is quite a lot of work to do in the evenings and the weekends coming up to that, but some of that is reading and research, as Richard already said. Some of that is actually speaking with your other cohort sort of colleagues or members and getting advice from each other, and then there's obviously the time to structure the assignment itself, but actually some of those conversations and research and maybe interviews with colleagues that you work with can all come out of that 20% of time. So I think it is very much a balancing act, but certainly at assignment time there is time commitments required for evening and weekends. So you do definitely need to have those agreements with your family so that they know that you're focusing on this.
A whole range of stakeholders here: employer, your co-colleagues on the course director, and your family. Sophie, if I can, I'm going to put a question to you from the audience. And Brendan, thank you very much for your question. Brendan is asking, and don't worry, Sophie, this is straightforward. Can I ask if the participants have a clear reason for choosing to do a course before they started, and what this reason was? Was it a career gap? And has this changed over the course of you studying here at Cranfield?
So for me, I chose this particular course very much from a career perspective. So as I mentioned at the beginning, I was new into the HR space. So I've been in sort of the learning and development space for several years, but actually that broader HR understanding of the different functions that sit within it was a gap for me. And actually within my own career development, it's a space I want to move into in a more senior role. So that was probably the reason I chose it. The reason I chose this particular course was, one, the modules that were outlined all were interested for me. Two, this particular course also gives you the CIPD chartered status. And three, this course also gives you the option to top it up to a master's degree in strategic human resource management. So there's a number of different things for me of why I chose this particular course.
And are you going to top up?
I think I am. For me, I did an MBA a few years ago, and it was one of those conversations with yourself that at the time you think it's more work, it's the dissertation or whatever. Actually, having come as far as you have and done all of the modules, the dissertation for me, hopefully, will be a combination of all of it and pulling it all together. And it feels a bit like, why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you?
It's quite a package of awards, isn't it, at the end?
Yes.
So it's worth the grit and the determination while on programme.
Why wouldn't you do all of those things? Say more, Sophie, if you can, because Richard also mentioned, I think maybe it was Sian, admin. Is it admin heavy at your end? Say more about the level of admin that you have to do.
So I think, as Sian already said, there's a portal called Matas that we need to evidence effectively the time that we've spent, and that is just the time within the workday. So any time you're spending in the evenings or weekends doesn't need to be logged. I think this is very much around demonstrating, as Sian said earlier, the rules, that the organisation and the individual is sticking to the rules of allocating that 20% of time. I think in terms of that admin, if it's done on a weekly basis, it's much easier and much quicker. Obviously, the less frequent you do that admin, it's more cumbersome, just purely because you're trying to remember then of the things that you've done. So I try and set aside just sort of 30 minutes or so each week, because every entry you do need to be able to demonstrate back to the knowledge, skills and behaviour. So if, for example, if I was researching, I'd need to reference it back to researching which particular knowledge, skills and behaviour. So there is a bit of admin, but the more frequently you do it, the less time and cumbersome it is.
Little and often
fully
is definitely the way with that element. Yeah.
Richard, go ahead. You would agree?
No, I everything that Sophie's just said, I would fully agree. Getting familiar with the online systems as quickly as you can within the first few days, I think, is important. So, and that's all shown to you. So you're given an orientation about how to navigate through the systems, what you need to do, where and when. But it's just, as Sophie said, just chipping away at the end of a few days, then update it and keep it current. Otherwise, it becomes a big task to do, and you really don't want to do that when you've got, say, 10 minutes just to do the administrative part of it.
Look, where you find the time in your day, I do not know. Sian, I've got a question from Jess, and Jess is saying, I'm interested in studying the Sustainable Business Specialist Apprenticeship. What's the likelihood of being able to enrol on a course with a September start date, given the government's possible intention of pulling level 7 apprenticeships?
We are planning our autumn 2025 courses as we speak, so the information will be available online. Until we know more, we're going for the usual delivery, and Sustainability Business Specialist is one of those that starts in the autumn. In fact, they have their sustainability event in March coming up, so that will be a great thing to be a part of for me. So do have a look at the website on there, Jess, to have a look at the details. It's a fabulous course, it really is, and it's one that's gaining in more popularity as we move towards green energy and so on. So it's really building up some momentum. So let's hope that the government continue to support that one.
Let's hope so. There's a question from Angela. Angela, it's great to see you on the call. Great to have you with us. Is there an upgrade path from Cranfield's MSc in Logistics and Supply Chain Management to an MBA once the former is complete? Angela can't stop studying.
Well, yes, there would be if you wanted to go on to do an MBA, but it wouldn't be available to you in the Senior Leader Apprenticeship route, because you'd have already participated on the Senior Leader as an Executive Logistics Apprentice. So you would have already achieved the Senior Leader, but by all means, get in touch and have a look at what the MBA has to offer you.
Can you tell us, and I'm going to go to Sophie, you first, the level of support or the type of support that's available to you? Let's pretend for a second that you have been out of education for a while. What sort of support have you found useful?
So I think the student admin support, actually just even enrolling on the programme and being able to, get that administrative part right, even just to the, when you're needing to put in certificates, although I know that rules of things have changed on that now, but also that mapping piece of, where you believe your skill gaps are. So I think one, student admin from a Cranfield perspective, the course director on our particular course, Chi, was amazing, very supportive, spent a lot of time in module 1, really, sort of getting the group up to speed in terms of what the programme was about, the structure of the programme, the expectation, and sort of also encouraging the cohort to sort of get to know each other more. So, things like setting up sort of social groups or WhatsApp groups, those types of things. And actually that, another point of support for me, has been really, really great. Having that blend of sort of in-person time and the virtual time really enables, when you're on campus, to get to know your cohort better. And even at assignment time, we're sort of sharing messages with each other of support of, the assignment time. Has anybody got any ideas of this? Which were the slides that we did for that? Those types of things. I think so from a student perspective, from a student admin perspective, but also for the course director. I think the other element as well is the library services. So it's such a huge resource, and again, this is all brought in right at the induction around what's available to you, and access to those systems. So I think from a Cranfield perspective, you've got so many different things, and as Sian mentioned earlier, you've got your one-to-one apprenticeship support, that obviously you book in meetings with you on your own, but then there's a tripartite review where it's you, your apprenticeship coach, and your line manager. So again, it really gets that engagement from all sides, so that actually the organisation can demonstrate and your line manager can demonstrate the commitment that they're supporting, but likewise you as the sort of the learner, if you like, can also demonstrate what it is that's happening, if there's anything that there's more support needed or any advice and guidance needed. So that for me is really, really useful. I think every topic leader that we've had lectures from on the course, obviously I'm just in module 2, but just in module 2 alone, there's so many different topics within that. And actually every module leader is so knowledgeable and really supportive on, would you like to ask me any questions after? Come and speak to me if you want more information on X, Y, and Z. So I think the whole programme itself is just full of different experts from a Cranfield perspective. And then from my perspective, again, talking the employer. So as I said earlier, I have been responsible for the apprenticeship programme, but actually being an apprentice now, looking after the apprenticeship programme has given me a different perspective too, to be able to recognise what other apprentices within the organisation may need. My own line manager has been really supportive, but the organisation as a whole really, really values this route of education. So I think all of that. And then finally, I think from a support perspective, my family have been very tolerant, which I think they needed to be.
Don't worry, she's just on another study assignment session. It sounds like you're enjoying it. Richard, I can come to you about that support and hand-holding. Yes. It sounds like you like to be thrown in at the deep end. Do you get the support that you need, or do you welcome the challenge?
The support is there for you as much as you need and as much as you want. I would echo everything that Sophie's just said. The on-site staff, the School of Management library staff, terrific. The IT staff, terrific. The tutors are all approachable and available to clarify any particular aspects. But there's also opportunities for additional learning as well. Be outside of the course material, you can learn additional skills. Whether it's software that you need to understand, you want to get better at Excel, pivot tables, whatever it might be. All of this is just available to you, and you can go to Cranfield if you want to and attend the online or the online learning opportunities, because it's very often streamed. So there's a scope to learn all sorts of things outside of the additional course material that just makes you better at what you're doing, like critical thinking, for example. What that is, what are the approaches, looking for, doing the analysis, getting the data to support arguments and provide that reasoning. So these are important additional skills that you also learn when you're doing this particular course. I'd agree with what Sophie was saying. You get the support from your other team members. We've become like a family, to tell you the truth. We're a very high-functioning team that we just seem to have complementary skills. We just came together and we've all gelled, and we provide each other with support in an informal nature outside of the course, and it just really works. Particularly when we do the group assignments, that we find that I'm very good at starting off things and I hate finishing things. So we've got one of our team, for example, she's a really good detailed finisher. So she will actually, come very much in at the end and start to tidy up and to sort out all the coursework for us that is of a group nature. And so we work well as a team. So you're learning lots of different skills, not just the course material, but also interpersonal skills, you're going to notice that your confidence increases. I think this is one of the big things that I've found, is that when you're dealing with chief executives of organizations, you can talk really confidently on their terms, use the same kind of language and terminology that you have become second nature to you. You understand what these terms mean. I mean, frankly, I hate finance, right? And there is a module which is all about finance. I was dreading it. Do you know what? It was fantastic. The tutor was excellent, and some of the concepts that we learned in business, he was able to put into terms that make you understand, because ultimately your own personal finances and the way you run that are very much the same, except you just use different words for the same thing. So he was able, you get that sort of light bulb moment. You think, oh yeah, I understand this, and I came through that with a distinction. I mean, for me, that was just like all my Christmases at once. But it's down to the actual tutors that you have. They're experts in their field. They can communicate well, they can articulate it well, and they give you confidence that inspires you when you get back into the workplace to apply those learnings because you know what you're talking about.
Wow, a model student. Sian, I want to come back to something that Sophie mentioned there a second ago, and it wasn't quite rummaging through the attic to find your certificates, but has that changed now with the government?
Yeah, so the Department of Education announced on 11th of February that they were no longer having apprentices that were 19 plus at the start of their apprenticeships are no longer required to submit evidence of level 2 maths and English at Gateway, so towards the end of the apprenticeship, providing their employers were willing to allow that. So it is the employer and the apprentice to decide whether they still need to do the level 2 English and maths, but they've really relaxed the rules on that. So that seems to have been a barrier that's been removed for a lot of learners, a lot of apprentices on programme. But it's very new, 11th February, so only a couple of weeks ago. So we're still digesting what that means for all of our current apprentices and what we're going to do for the new apprentices coming on board over the summer and then into the autumn. But yeah, that was a big announcement for us in National Apprenticeship Week during that 10th of February week.
I guess it smooths and streamlines the process of applying because you've got less of a
Yes, we're looking at how we're going to incorporate that new guidance into our application journey. I mean, some providers still are providing the support. Some employers still want to have that literacy and numeracy aspect as part of their apprenticeship. So we will still have the maths and English elements running throughout the curriculums, but it's more that level 2 evidence, so those GCSE certificates that some of our apprentices now, in the upper echelons of their careers, they don't want to go up into the parents' attic to dig out their national record of achievement. But some do, of course, because it reminds them just how well they did back then.
And a really good reason to go into the attic.
Yeah.
Sophie, I want to come to you if I can, because I'm interested in whether your employer, you, can bring a work-based problem onto the course, or do you have to park that and just do what the course says?
It's all work-based problems, actually. So I think certainly, so the first module for this particular course is around organisational behaviour. So actually, that whole the sort of the thesis main topic, if you like, was very much based on a work-based problem, and then it was more about applying the models that we'd learned on the course to that problem. So the models and the curriculum of the course is there, but actually it's very much around how you can relate it to your organisation and a work-based problem. So that's very much the approach.
Toby, can I add?
Yeah, please go ahead.
I think the way that Cranfield lead you into it, I think, is very clever. So at the beginning, so I'm on like the 8th module, whatever it is. There's a couple more to do, and that's it. But looking at the structure and how they've done it. So at the beginning, the module and the assignments are more or less what you want to do. They're much more, I wouldn't say abstract so much, but they're much less connected or closer to you. But as the course has gone on, so each module has become much more applied in the workplace. But you bring in all of those learnings that you've learned before, and you integrate that into the new module as well. And so it changes over the course of the assignments, and this helps to bring your confidence along to apply those learnings to the workplace for real challenges that you have at work. And you know what? People at work notice that you're different. They do. They think, my goodness, what's happened to him or her? They think, my goodness, it's people have said that to me. They say, I notice you're communicating differently. You're saying different things, and it's just been a complete adventure. This whole thing has been an adventure. But you've really, if you want to do it, I'd say do it. Absolutely, wouldn't hold back. My only regret is that this opportunity wasn't available to me many years ago.
I knew you'd say that. I knew you'd say that. Sophie, can I come on to something very similar to what Richard has just said? And this is a question from Stuart. And Stuart is saying, what did you not know or appreciate before you started your course that you wish you had known, and that's helpful?
Of course, a good question. So I think in terms of what I didn't know, I did do quite a lot of research before I joined this course to understand the content, the modules, how it was being delivered. What I didn't know probably was the level of support that was available in terms of some of the things I mentioned earlier, and actually that the access to many of the different resource sort of libraries and those types of things. I think the other probably element that I maybe didn't know was how connected the cohort was going to be. So, like I said, in previous studies, for me, it had been all online. And so that connection with that cohort wasn't the same. So that was something for me that was a real difference with Cranfield in terms of that sort of support network. In terms of the course itself, like I said, I did do quite a lot of research beforehand. What I didn't know, again, was actually that the opportunity to have a sort of a quick 15-minute chat before I signed up with the course director was really valuable. And that was what actually changed. That was confirmed the decision at the end. So she took the time out to talk me through, again, like I mentioned, that structure, the time commitments, the modules. So actually, by the time I started the course, there was very little that I felt was unknown in terms of how the course was going to be delivered because of that sort of preparation beforehand.
Thank you. Sian, question. Oh, sorry, I'm going to come back to you in a second there, Richard. Alice has a question. I'm going to put it to Sian. I'm considering the Sustainable Business Specialist Apprenticeship. Wonderful. Is there much competition for spaces on these things? What does a good candidate look like?
Oh, it is a good question. I'm not sure I can really give you a specific answer on that because we have so many different types of organisations joining this sustainability and people from different backgrounds. So what I would say is, and it kind of links to what Sophie and Richard are saying, is one of the biggest assets on the course are the apprentices themselves. They're all in their different roles, they all bring different backgrounds, different perspectives, different ways of interpreting those knowledge, skills and behaviours. So it's a really rich learning environment. What I would say for Alice, was it Alice?
Alice, yes.
Yes. We have done some webinars with Rosina and Kanisha, haven't we?
We have.
For sustainability. Yeah. I think do look at the website and there are the recordings of those to share, and then reach out to the course team. So I'd be very happy to have a conversation like Sophie has just mentioned with Chi. The same can happen with Rosina and Kanisha, who are the course directors for the Sustainability Business Specialist. And I would also say to speak to line managers and central HR to discuss, your ambition, your drive to do the course, the reasons why you're really interested in that sustainability route, and take it from there, really, Alice.
Brilliant. Speaking of amazing candidates, we're joined by Stuart. Stuart, it's great to have you with us. Stuart has a question. I'll be starting the MML MSc in March. MML?
Management and Leadership.
There you go.
We
knew that. I understand from previous cohorts they had to sit exams in finance. Do you know if exams are still part of the course for the upcoming cohort?
My understanding is that...
Why is Richard laughing there?
Because he didn't like the finance module, did
he? It wasn't an exam, it was an assignment.
Oh, assignment.
Yeah.
Tell us more, because Stuart wants to know.
Do you know, it came as a big relief. I was dreading it, and the thought of doing an exam was just froze my blood. But I tell you what, the good news was that it was changed to be an assignment, and what a great assignment it was. And like I say, I got a distinction on that one.
Sorry, is that the second time you mentioned that, Richard?
Yeah, just thought I'd drop that in. Yeah. But I'm just saying, for someone who hates numbers and spreadsheets and stuff like that, I actually have completely changed my whole attitude towards it, and I now know the value of data doing the research. I love doing the analysis as well, and using that to drive arguments and positions about sort of marketing plans that we might be considering. But there was no exam, I can assure you of that. And that was a concern, but I thought, well, okay, if it has to be an exam, we'll go through it. But it turned out not to be. So that
Sounds
was,
like Cranfield turned you into a financier, Richard. That's amazing.
I wouldn't say that, but it has turned me into a data analyst, and it's also I've also refound my love of books as well, and reading and doing research and being able to think and reflect on what I've learned and what I've read and applying that. So yeah, all sorts of new skills.
Sian.
What I would say is these standards are so broad. You're going to be put out of your comfort zone. You're going to be learning different things and stretched, and that's actually what you want. So I wouldn't be fearful of an exam or any particular content, because you'll prepare for the lecturing, you'll have the face-to-face study session, you'll do the post work, and then you'll have the assessment. So whether it's individual coursework or an exam, you'll be prepared, and I think you'll know where your skills lie and where you've got the growth opportunities, and you can respond to those, and you'd be able to rely on the your learning team, so the peers on the course, and also the teaching staff. So I think, take a deep breath and throw yourself into
Just
it.
do it, hasn't got to worry.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I don't think so. And, you've heard Richard say, well, actually, it's turned me into a data analyst now. So it's kind of demystified the material and built up that confidence to take it in your stride, to look at it in a different way and get the meaning out of it.
Stuart, we're gunning for you. Richard, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that's absolutely true from what Sian was saying.
Fantastic. Question here then. Questions are coming thick and fast. And if you've not had a chance to put something into the text chat, please put something into the text chat. Ask a really tricky question, preferably to our amazing guests if we can. Can I ask, and this is Sophie, so Sophie, pin your ears back. Can I ask what course Sophie is on, and is organisation behaviours on that? Because that's one of Ling Zhu's interests. Is that part of what you're doing?
Yes, so the course that I'm on is the Senior People Professional Level 7. The first module was psychological contracts and the employee life cycle. The second module, which is the one I'm just coming to the end of, is all around its inclusion and organisational behaviour. So obviously that's a large module. It includes many things and different models within it, such as, EDI. It includes sort of different models on leadership styles. There's, so many, probably too many to talk about, but absolutely, organisational behaviour is module 2.
Brilliant.
There's organisational behaviour is one of my favourites, because let you into a secret. I've also been on the senior leader apprenticeship programme.
You kept that quiet.
Well, I've just revealed now, and it was one of my absolute favourites. I really got so much out of it. So reflective. It makes you understand yourself a bit better. It makes you understand others more. The different kind of quizzes that you do, Myers-Briggs and so on, just to really understand where you are, how you relate to others, and then that works out to organisational level. So it really is something that Cranfield deliver very well here. Yeah.
Fantastic. Question here from mysteriously titled Samsung SM G991U1. I'm interested in the Senior Leader and Exec MBA course. Is there an apprenticeship option for that?
There is. We are starting a new programme of that in the summer, so please do go to the website and have a look. Expression of interest and application deadlines will be showing on the website, so do have a look through. It's a fabulous course. It is intensive, so it's a senior leader underpinned by the business administration programme, and again it's one where you do the postgraduate diploma in business administration as part of the senior leader, and then you go on to complete up to the masters. It is intensive, but it's very good. I can vouch for that. I'm midway through, so.
I think the message is it is intensive, but you're supported, so we really want you to apply. Question here from Tom. Did you find, and I think I'm going to put this one, Sophie, to you. Did you find, Sophie, that your cohort was from a diverse range of industries that helped you benefit your organisation, for instance?
Very much so. So we have about 16 on our cohort, and it's a real mix between public and private sector, commercial, non-commercial, different roles within organisations. So obviously this is more of an HR-based program, but this is very much as we have those that are in sort of strategic people partner roles. We have those that are in similar roles that I am. We have those that are in resourcing roles. We have some that are in sort of the change management sort of sphere. We've got others that are like I say, doing similar roles, and then completely different roles within that sort of change leadership and sort of HR space, but the mix of organisations on our particular cohort is been really great, and as you just said then, Toby, the understanding that, getting that diverse perspective, and understanding even just for different case studies, how do you do X in your organisation, or it's very different, than we do it. Those sorts of those conversations are just much richer because of that.
And then you bring that back into your organisation, and the organisation benefits. What's not to like?
Definitely.
Fantastic. Sian, one for you here. This is from Catherine, and Catherine's here on behalf of an employer. Going back to what you were saying about the changes to maths and English, I'm here on behalf of my employer. We have an individual interested in level 7 senior leader with MBA, but does not have a maths requirement. Are they still able to apply, or not until you have further reviewed the changes?
Yes, they are able to apply.
That's a yes.
Yeah. But yeah, please do apply. As part of the initial assessment, they will be asked to do a Maths and English BKSB, which is a basic key skills builder. We haven't had any news yet on the changes to that requirement as part of onboarding apprentices. But in terms of the level 2 evidence, so those GCSE certificates, the employer can decide to exempt individuals from providing that at Gateway. So short answer is yes, please do apply.
And on that point, the admission requirements for senior leadership apprenticeships, can you give a high level of that? I know it's on the website.
The apprenticeship is more inclusive. So apprenticeships are about identifying gaps in knowledge, skills and behaviours to demonstrate that this is why you need to do the course. This is why you want to do the course, to fill those gaps in your KSBs, knowledge, skills and behaviours. Whereas you balance that on the academic educational side. So you would submit an application for the academic programme and then the initial assessment. So it varies. There's quite a bit of detail depending on which masters that you intend to work through. So I'm afraid I would have to say it is best to review the detail on the website for that information.
So get onto the website and really follow any contact details you have on the website. I think we've got a few scrolling across the screen as well. So please get in touch. Get in touch with you in particular?
Yep, get in touch with me and the team at apprenticeships@cranfield.ac.uk, and we'll be happy to pick up your queries. We may direct you over to School of Management or one of the other schools, depending on where your interest lies.
Fantastic. Rahul's got a question. I'm not quite sure who this is, so I'll read it out anyway. A few queries about senior leadership apprenticeships in management and leadership. How many members in the current cohort? You haven't got that one.
Not off the top of my head, but I know that we have got quite a large cohort coming in March, sort of almost around the 80 mark. Wow. So yeah, a real mix of different organisations and multiple people from different organisations, which is fabulous.
Next one. This is like an exam here. Thanks, Rahul. What is the average age of an apprenticeship student?
For my cohort, so going back a little way, it was about 38, 39. So yeah, around there, but it does vary depending on which apprenticeship that you're interested in doing, and also it can vary between different intakes also.
So Richard, can you answer those questions? The size of cohort and the average age for yours?
Yes, there's about 20 on our cohort. The average age is probably about 38, something like that. I'm the oldest, but so I probably skew those figures upwards by a decade or two. But I don't think age really matters. What really counts at the senior leadership level is bringing your experience to the course, and that experience you can talk with other in the cohort. You can express that during the lectures. And I think that's what really counts is your experience, as much or as little of it as you have. What experience you do have is to bring that along and contribute. And I think enjoy the participative nature of the learning. Engage, listen, and learn as you go along, and apply those learnings when you get back to work. I just think it's brilliant. I absolutely love the course.
I can't stop hearing that. So, Sophie, just size of cohort, average age for you?
So the size of our cohort, I think, is around 16. We had a couple of additions at the beginning, so I think it's about 16. In terms of the average age, so probably similar, actually. I think probably late 30s to sort of mid 40s, and there's obviously a couple either end.
And Rahul wants a particularly honest answer, Sophie, from you on this one. How many days per week, really, are you committed to studying?
So when it's not assignment time, I would say it probably is 2 days. So the one that's within the work time, and then the other's probably reading in the evening. When it's assignment time, it's a lot more, because it's so obviously it's the sort of the day in the week from a work time perspective. But for example, this week I've been working every evening and all of Sunday, because I know I've got a deadline by Friday, and I want to make sure I'm proofreading and doing all of the things, making sure all the right research in. So I think it depends at which point you are. I think when you're on site, for example, at Cranfield with the lectures, then they are very full days, because obviously you need to get the maximum out of that. But it's very much learning. It's a full day, so it is sort of your 9 to 5:30. So then tend not to do much in the evening, because your brain is normally fried by that point. But yeah, I think on the whole, I would say it's probably 2 days on average, but assignment time it's much more.
Rahul, thank you for the question. Don't be put off by that. Richard, you would agree?
I totally agree. Yes, there's a bit of ebb and flow with it, as Sophie was saying, but it is intense. But you only get out of it what you're going to put in, and make no mistake. You will need to apply yourself fully to what you're learning, what you're studying, what you're doing. But the main thing is enjoy it. It's got to be enjoyable.
It's easy to forget that point, but it's an important point. Well, there's one final question. This is about funding. Not sure if I completely understand the question, but I'll give it a go. Part 1, 26 months apprenticeship, employer and government funded. Part 2, 6 months progression to full MSc. Is not through apprenticeship, or should it be self-funded? And are we talking about self-funding here, or is all looked after by the government and the levy?
The senior leader it's 14,000, the senior leader apprenticeship levy, and that comes in monthly instalments, with a lump sum at the end for completion of your endpoint assessment. For the master's element, there is an additional top-up fee which is payable by the individual or the employer into Cranfield. So there are different styles depending on which apprenticeship and if the individual wants to move on to the master's degree.
Okay, Rahul, if that didn't answer your question, please put something into the text chat. Again, if you're watching the recording and you've reached this far, congratulations. Please, we want to carry on the conversation. Get in touch with us to find out more and ask that key question. Sophie, to you first. If you had your time again, what would you do differently in terms of the application process, the timeline, and your study?
I think in terms of the application process, I don't think I'd change anything there. I think what I would do more is planning up front. So actually once that, so I put in the in-person days as soon as I got the timetable. What I didn't do is put the time that I wanted to allocate outside of those in-person days. I think planning up front, blocking out your calendar when it works for you, and having that agreement with your sort of your employer, I should have done a bit earlier, just because probably as everyone that's potentially going to do a level 7, calendars are busier now, and the further advanced you can do that planning, the better. So I think planning that apprenticeship allocated, dedicated time, I would have done more quickly.
Yeah, fully agree.
Yeah, Richard, you sound like you've had a great time anyway, and you wouldn't do anything differently. Is there something that you would do differently?
I support what Sophie was saying, that time, if you're not good at time management, put it this way, you will be, because you have to be.
That sounds like a threat.
And so you end up being able to juggle, and spin several plates at the same time, which we all have to do, but you're given, some additional plates to keep spinning. So time management is critical. Making full use of the time that you've got available to it, and everything will be fine. I found everything, for me, I was I hadn't been in school for like 50 odd years, and I wasn't sure whether, what I was going to be in for, to tell you the truth. But I got myself an electronic notebook, one of those remarkable things. So I'm not carrying around huge amounts of paper or losing bits of paper. I can access it simply and easily wherever I am at any time of day or night, as the case may be. So there are new ways of learning. There are new gadgets that you can get to help you. But yeah, time management is one of the important things. But as I say, it does settle down and it all falls into place.
Well, excuses to buy books, excuses to buy gadgets. It sounds like Richard is in a sweet shop here. Fantastic. Next steps, I guess, is the next steps. People who have gotten to this far, I think, you know what, maybe this is for me. What should they be doing right now?
I would recommend speaking to line managers and speaking to your central HR contact. Have a look on the website, see what's available. There will be deadlines for employer expressions of interest if the company is new to Cranfield, and then the application will take a bit of time for you as an individual to go through that process. So when we're finished today, make that phone call, get in touch with those line managers and HR, and take it from there.
And I guess book a one-to-one with the course director if you're at all concerned about the content of the course.
Yeah.
Is there a way for people that are thinking about it to talk to other students, aside from Sophie and Richard in this case?
Do you know, I'm not sure.
It's always a good endorsement.
Yeah, I think there are ways to speak to students via the website, but specifically oriented towards apprenticeships. I think you might have given us a great idea in getting that set up if it's not already there. So thank you. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay. We have run out of time and questions. So thank you for taking the time to ask your questions. It's obvious by now that we're very keen to see you here at Cranfield University. If you have anything that you wanted to ask subsequent to this session, the live session, get in touch. And likewise, the recording, please get in touch. Sian is going to be able to answer some of those questions, and the team likewise. Sophie, how can I possibly thank you? Thank you so much, and good luck with the assignment. You're putting a face there. I'm assuming it's going to be good. And Richard, it's going to be distinction from now on, please. Every assignment needs a distinction. Thank you for taking time out of your busy days to join us.
You're welcome.
Really appreciate it. Thank you so much for those endorsements. Thank you for watching. The studio producer today was Tammy Archer-Peters. The producer was Robin Hackett and Marco Gomez. My name is Toby Thompson. Thank you for watching.